Hi, ho, name is Mr. Orgeck, and this is the last lesson in Unit 9. And we're going to go and defer ourselves to something similar to the beginning. If you remember, we did all the square roots. Well, now we're going to deal with cubic roots. So you're going to have a cube there in front instead of just a square root, which is an unwritten 2. And it's going to take a graph like this, so very similar. You remember square root looks like this. Cubic root is going to have a flip part that goes also this way. So that's our goal. Our objective is to find cubic roots, solve these cubic functions, graph them, be able to talk about them. Okay, that's our goal. Let's rock and roll. Okay, so just like square roots, like if you wanted a square root of 4, you knew it was a pair of buddies. They're 2 times 2. When you get a cubic root, you're trying to break that thing up into 3 sets of something. So what number times itself times itself? Well, we can start off by breaking 8 down. We know it's 2 times 4, but then we can break down the 4 into 2 times 2. And if you take a look here, I got a triple pair of buddies here. So it's a threesome here. It goes in here. And all you do is pull that out. So anytime you got a 3 of the same thing, when you got a cubic root, it comes out as a whole number, in this case 2. If I do something like 27 here, I'll go over to C. You should know that that turns out to be 3 times 3 times 3. So the whole answer is 3. And I don't want you panicking with the negatives. We just did the cubic root of 8. Square roots can't take, if you remember, a square root of negative because you need 2 things, and 2 negatives or 2 positives don't give you a negative. But when we get to cubic roots, you can have an odd one. So this is actually the cubic root of, and we just did 8, so we already knew it was 2 times 2 times 2. But now with the negative sign, it's going to be 3 negatives together. So negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And therefore, I got 3 buddies of a negative 2. So what comes out? A negative 2. All right, I want you to pause the video for a moment, and I want you to do B, D, and E. All right, you should come back and see that B was equal to 1, because 1 times 1 times 1. 3 ones make a, for the cubic root of 1. Same thing by D is 0, 0, 0, and it turns out to be negative 1 times the negative 1 is positive 1 times the negative 1 is negative 1. So 3 negative 1s together make up the thing where you can do a cubic root. All right, let's move on to exercise 2. All right, now when they get a little bigger, such as things like this, and even bigger, we're in the thousands here, I don't think many of you are walking around knowing what the heck is what. So your calculator is going to come into play here on those. Excuse me. And so you're going to look for it. What you want to do is you're going to hit your math button, okay? And then you're going to want number 4, choice 4. You will see it look like this. It's the cubic root of something, okay? So all you do is that, punch in your 343, hit enter, and your button should say the answer is 7. So 7 times 7 times 7 is 343. And if I do B right here, I will actually get, because that negative gives you a clue, there's going to be a negative coming out, because 3 negatives will make the negative. And it turns out to be 14 times 14 times 14. So pause the video for a sec and try C. Okay, and you should have been able to punch into the calculator math choice 4, sorry, and you should have come out with a nice number of 23. So 23 times 23 times 23. Okay, we're going to move on to exercise 3. All right, another easy one here. Well, we know the square root of 100 would be 10, because 10 times 10, but there is no number that's nice that gives me 100 when I do it 3 times. So you actually have to do the same thing we just did. Hit math, choice 4, and then take the cubed root of 100, and you got to go to, they said, to the nearest tenth here using your calculator. So it actually turns out to be 4.6 rounded off, because it was 4.64. That's all you got to do. I want you to pause, and I'm sure you can do B and C, and I'll give you the answers. Okay, so if you did math and then you did choice 4 here on negative 364, your nearest tenth is negative 7.1. Be careful, I got an error, just reminded me. I hit, I think, subtraction by accident, silly me. So I got to make sure you use that negative symbol. And if you take the cube root of 982, and you will get about 9.9 rounded. All right, well, let's move on to the final exercise. All right, finally in exercise 4, we're actually going to grab the cube root function, and I showed you that at the beginning on the objective page. But here's all we're going to do. I say take this function, y equals cube root of x, without your calculator. So let's start with 0. That's probably the easiest. What number times itself again is 0? We know that's 0. 0 times 0 times 0. And 1, of course, is 1 times 1 times 1. So negative 1 is negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. Now the harder one. Let's go to 8. If you remember from the first exercise, what number times itself again is 8? The choice is 2. Therefore, the negative 8 will actually be a negative 2 times itself. So now all we got to do is go plot these guys. So if I go 8 to the left, down 2, I put a point right here. If I go 1 to the left, down 1, point right here. 0, 0, right there. 1, 1. And finally, over 8, up 2. And keep in mind, I kind of hand draw these out. Don't forget your arrowhead is going to go that way. And it's going to twist this way. Come in here. Okay? That's what a cubic root looks like. Now, they want you in Part C just to punch it into your calculator. I'll let you do that to verify. Remember, you're punching in this equation, y equals the cubic root of x. So when you go to the y equals screen, once again, hit math, hit choice 4, and then put an x in, and go graph the thing. It will look like this, and that's awesome. Now all you got to do is write a nice WSQ and be ready for class to explore this a little bit more, okay? You can now figure out cubic roots, and you can graph them, and we can get harder and see what happens, and we'll talk about the shifts in class and all that, all right? Have a good one. Take it easy.